People talk a lot about not reading documentation, and perhaps you yourself have found experiencing similar struggles where you even perhaps write documentation only for it to not be read by anyone else either. And if you said to any of this, then you're probably in good company here. And going into this talk, I want you to imagine a future where documentation doesn't exist to just be forgotten instantly, where maybe it could live inside the game right there to be beholden. Robin-Yann Storm is a workflow designer and consultant, and he will introduce how to structure documentation so that artists and designers can engage with documentation right there in-game in a model that functions similarly to gyms, zoos, and museums. Please welcome to the second stage, Robin-Yann Storm.
But I have a loud voice. I used to be in theater, so I have a loud voice anyway. This is better. So hi, I have over 15 years of game development experience. I was a tool designer at IO Interactive, working on the Glacier editor used to build the Hitman games. I was a tool designer at Guerrilla Games, working on the Decima editor engine used to build the Horizon games. I was a tool designer at Apple in California, working on Reality Composer and Reality Converter. I was also a co-inventor on 5 patents, which you can Google if you'd like. And nowadays I'm a freelance product and UX designer as a consultant for various companies. And my advice for you two is build in-game documentation. Build in-game documentation such as gyms, such as zoos, and such as museums. And the cool thing is you can even automate the creation of that documentation. So why do we need in-game documentation? Because at any company, there are games of telephone and information gets lost. Information like how far can a player jump? Let's say, for example, we asked that, and we're making a level, we want to find out how far can a player jump. Well, we found out that Alex knows this. Great, so we go to Alex. Alex says, actually, Sam knows about it. So great, we go to Sam, and Sam says, actually, it's on Confluence. Okay, so we go to Confluence. And on Confluence, there's a thing that says, actually, it's on Slack. There's like channel for it. So like, okay, so we go find the channel, but it's a private channel. So we can't join. So we have to ask for an invite. So now we got to find someone who can invite us. So we're going to find that person. They finally invite you. Great, you're in the Slack channel, and finally, you found it. You have your information. You've probably gone through this, and it's a terrible experience, right? So basically, it's a game of telephone and telephone and telephone and telephone, going from thing to person to thing to person. It takes a while for your question to get answered, which also creates so much room for error. At any point in time, you can get lost, be sent to the wrong person, read the wrong thing, read something outdated, and suddenly everything's lost. And these are for very good questions like how far can a player jump? How low can a player crawl? What is that animation called? In what level is that NPC? All very normal questions to ask. And the thing is, why are they being asked? Well, because everything changes all the time. Some call that chaos. Some call it a fast-paced environment. Other people call it agile. Whatever you want to call it, it's a natural part of iteration. This is just how game development works. It's okay. Like games have constant iteration, and this is a good thing. This is great. We're constantly making our games better. But constantly having to update documentation is tough. It's not a great part of the experience. So back in the day, I used to be taught that a big GDD, a game design document, you had to build that and constantly keep it up to date. Something would change, update the document. Something would change, update the document. Those days have passed. This is not what you should be doing anymore nowadays. Like back in the days, like 90s, 2000s, yes, definitely a thing you had to do at the time. Not anymore. Because the thing you have to think about is, are you shipping your documentation or are you shipping your game? Like tools and editors have changed a lot since then. It's become much, much easier to document things in-game. So basically, at the start of a project, you should document. Please, I'm not saying not to document. Please document. Please write down what you think the game should be. But then at some point, you're going to be moving to the engine. That's great. So now you're in-game and you're building things. And slowly, over time, you're going to forget to update the documentation, and then you're no longer updating it at all anymore, and you're just working in-game, and then slowly the documentation goes out of date, and then you just only have the game there. Now at this point, some people will say, oh no, the documentation is out of date. And I'm here to say, like, don't worry, that's normal, but updating it should be easy. You should document your game in-game, spatially and contextually to your content. So instead of updating two things at the same time, combine these things into one thing. That's a core tenet of workflow design, right? Working in context. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this, and the ones I'll talk about today and the ones I recommend are gym, zoo, and museum. Now, you may know these under different names, such as test map, metrics world, showcase, playground, test level, white room, player zoo, gallery, mechanics garden, which I think is lovely, mechanics garden, and workshop. But for ease of use, I would urge you to please only stick to these ones, gym, zoo, museum. They were established back in the 90s. They're still used by companies. They're just not often talked about because they stay internal, but these are usually the best words to stick to. So we're going to go through them one at a time. Chapter 1 here is gym. So a gym is for character controllers, it's for player movement, and it's for character animation. So here's an example of the game animation sample from Unreal 5. You can just download this for free and try it out. We can see the character can run around, and we have some metrics that show things like this is 1 meter, and this is 2.5 meters, and you can climb onto it. So the gym allows you to do this kind of thing very easily. You can even teleport to another place and do some more testing. Now, again, usually gyms are not released to the public, and they stay internal during development, which is probably why you haven't seen them as much anymore. So here's what I've done. I created a little gym that showcases the usual elements, such as jump distances. So in this case, green is a good distance. That's easy to jump. Orange is a little bit more difficult. And red is bad. It's too far away to jump, so don't build your level in that way. Now, you can imagine just hitting play and running through this, making that jump, seeing how it functions, understanding it. Or here, corner cover. Green is good. Orange is bad. Or, you know, in Assassin's Creed, you can like run along fences. Here's a little section of like, hey, these fences are good. These fences are bad. This is how it works. Or another one that happens in a lot of games, edge climbing. You're going to climb around some kind of cliff, right? Well, here's a showcase that allows you to instantly hit play and go through that and see how that edge climbing works. So games also sometimes release gyms, but they kind of do it under a different name called a shooting range or something like that. For example, here's one from Overwatch 2. You can load up with any character you want, and you can start shooting things to see how they work. You can pick up an item and see how it functions. For example, have my ultimate instantly ready here. I don't have to wait, I don't have to put in a console command. It just works right away. I can also shoot whatever enemy I want. I've got a really easy interface, select what enemy I want to shoot, see how these things function. Then I can simply activate an ability, and boom, I can see that everything works. Now, this is just not for the game players, it's also for game developers. Or, as Jan David Hassel once told me, you can't ship a game without hitting the gym. So a gym is also helpful for smoke testing and other automated testing. For example, let a character run through it overnight. Does the character get stuck? Is something wrong? Now you have an automated message that kind of goes, hey, something's wrong with the character controller. Someone should check this out. And it's all automatic thanks to a gym. So when someone asks, how far can a player jump? Instead of some really big documents, then you're going to have to find some table in there. Ugh, terrible. Instead, you check the gym and you instantly have the information you need. How far can a player jump? Check the gym and you find it. What is the maximum terrain angle? Check the gym, you have your answer. How much damage does that ability do? Check the gym, and there's your answer. You have a single source of truth. So I'm not saying don't document. Please document. I am saying know what and when to document. For example, engineers love reading text documentation, especially for APIs. So you have to give this to them. You need to write text and give that to them. It works great. But artists and designers will not read written documentation. Except for some reason, narrative designers. They do read this. Like they're great with text, they do, but okay, everyone else doesn't, okay? This is also why generally I think like narrative tools have such bad UX, because the user base of narrative tools like more readily reads docs and is more able to get around bad design, but that's a story for another time. But what makes a good gym? It has test cases for all major character environment interactions of like climbing, bumping into things, fences, all those things. It has descriptions of the metrics right there in the world. It has color coding and text clearly explaining what everything is. And it has teleportation and ease of use. It's not like you have to like type in a console command, find out one level to go to, like fly around the level to find what you need. No, you can just teleport right where you need to go. So that's the first takeaway, being use gyms. Now, chapter 2, Zoo. This is for 3D art assets, items, and NPCs, for VFX, audio, and materials, and for vignettes and art directors. So, a classic problem of asset browsers is that you have a bunch of thumbnails, right? Just a whole bunch of thumbnails. And if we zoom in here, if you look at that siege tower at the bottom and the rock above it, which asset is larger? We have no idea. This siege tower is a little bit longer in the thumb, but like how much larger? Like in fact, we have no idea what the scale is of any of these assets. Also, what do they look like in the lighting of the level? Like at dusk, at night, we have no idea. So there's some cool things that, for example, Unreal does, which to combat this problem, you can click and rotate on a thumbnail to see what an asset looks like right there in the asset browser. That's cool. But still, that rock and ballista, are they the same size? Are the stairs the same size? We have no idea. Now, we can rotate the asset to see what the bottom of a siege ram looks like. Bam. There it is. That's pretty cool, but I still can't see exactly what its scale is. By the way, just a quick thank you to Kenny for those Creative Commons 0 assets that I'm using here. So yeah, let's give a quick shout out to Kenny. Thank you, Kenny. Now, here in Unreal, for example, here's another zoo. In the zoo, I can see what the assets look like. I can see what their scale is. I can see what they look like in lighting. You instantly see this information, so you know right away if this will fit your current level, creation, scale, and style. I can even set up a day and night cycle to see what everything looks like, and I can even zoom in on this to find out what exactly does that material look like. Does it have parallax? What exactly does this thing look like? I can see it right there. You can even do a little vignette on the side made by an art director to showcase, oh, those assets, you put them together like this to make sure you're congruent with the art style of the game. So everything is right there. Anyone can open this up and instantly see how they should use these art assets. So instead of asking what's the name of that item, you have to spawn CR1284 into a console. What's the name of that vendor NPC? What level are they in again? Is it in the city sewers at these coordinates? Important questions which take ages of time. Again, telephone. It's terrible. Instead, you can find everything in the zoo. Now, another big problem generally with asset systems is asset names. For example, what would you type into an asset browser to find this asset? Just shout out some names. What would you type in? Fence, portcullis is a great one. Fence, portcullis, anyone else? Gate, great. So yeah, iron gate, steel gate, what would I find? Turns out it's called metal gate. Now, what is the difference between metal, steel, and iron? Does it matter on me trying to find a thing that I need? Only searching by asset names is generally a really bad idea, especially when you have 10,000 assets or more. It generally just becomes a bad thing. Even if you add loads of tags to them, tags still become a problem eventually with the amount of tagging that you have, the amount of work to tag and retag assets. Giant problem. With the zoo, you don't have to deal with those problems anymore. Here's a zoo from Counter-Strike Global Offensive for the level DE Nuke, which Valve released. And you can see a little text here, like, oh, these are all the roof trims. What are the names of these roof trims? I don't care. I don't need to know. I can just click on any of these, copy and paste them over to my level, and I can use them. I also see like high poly and low poly versions of these wires and cables. What are these cables called? Don't care. I can grab them, instantly use them, see them, debug them. It becomes so much easier to work with. And that kind of data of like, grouping those things together, grab that data programmatically where possible. Like do it all automatically. Like show that data in engine next to the asset. And again, zoos are usually not released to the public, but here's one from Overwatch 2. This is like a 3-frame segment from like a YouTube video they once published. And I was like, oh my God, there's a zoo. I gotta take a picture. So, it doesn't always get released, but they do use them. And here's another zoo I recently saw in a talk by Larian for Baldur's Gate 3. You can see in one level how every single helmet fits to every race, body type, etc. Like everything in one go. You don't have to like go into the asset browser, find the names of all these things, try to spawn the right thing. It's all there in one level. You can see them all right away. It's great. Or here's one from a blog post and a talk that Joel Burgess did about level design workflows for Skyrim like years ago. Easy to see everything. But you don't only have to do this for 3D models. You can also do this for VFX. For example, here's a zoo from Skin Deep by Blendo Games. We can instantly see all the VFX playing instead of one by one in some previewer. We can see what they look like. We can fly closer to it, and we can see it like, oh, this is the electric defib VFX asset. I want to use it. Great. Copy and paste it over. Lovely. This process of laying out asset goes back really long ago to like physical objects and tools. It's not just a digital thing. Physically, this is called knolling. It was coined by Andrew Krummelow in the 1980s. And if you've built things with Legos, you've done this yourself. For example, here's a Lego creation knolled by Ren Breyer. In this case, putting Lego pieces next to each other and building them a little bit. Grabbing the next section, building a little more, grabbing the next section, building a little more. In fact, there's even a popular video game character who has been shown to do this. Hitman Agent 47. In the legacy trailer by IO Interactive, look at all those neatly laid out assets. Lovely. So you can build a zoo for any asset, anything in 3D, like including animations. For example, here's one for an Unreal character. We can see all animations right away, which also means we can easily debug them all right away. There's no need to know what the animation is called until we click on it and then see its name. And none of this requires manual work to set up if you wanted to. For example, here's Asset Placer for Godot, made by Cookie Badger. Again, we have that classical problem of a whole bunch of assets in an asset browser with only thumbnails, no idea what the scale is, what they look like in lighting, confusing. We right-click on the group, we say Generate Asset Zoo. That's all we have to do. Click on it, and instantly we can see what everything looks like. What the scale of each asset is in relation to each other. Do we want to use this asset or not? We can look around. There's no need to know any names. It's all automatic. Here's another one. You can do this for any group of assets. Like here, there's a different group. Right-click, boom, there we go. So Asset Placer for Godot by Cookie Badger. It's great, lovely, works well. Now, as you can see, this is not just tool design. We're not just designing the tools and how we use them. This is workflow design. We're designing a workflow that's easier for everyone to use. For example, you can also combine this with other things, other workflows within editors. For example, debugging workflows. Here's an asset zoo in Unreal. Now, can you point which asset has an issue? Extremely easy, right? That's that one right there. We can zoom in on it. There's something wrong with the shader. Cool, we can fix it right away. Simple. Here's another one. Which asset is not loading correctly? Great. Instances we know. We can zoom in on it and find it and resolve it. Great. So zoos are good for this kind of smoke testing and automated testing, just as with gyms. Like we can take a screenshot of that zoo every single evening and just kind of go, put them side by side, how many pixels have changed? Well, does that mean that we have a lot of new assets or something terribly broken and someone needs to look at this? Like send that bug report, like show those two screenshots to an art director and just kind of go like, hey, is something wrong? Something wrong or not, something not wrong? It's much easier to find than loading up every level, going through it, seeing if everything's wrong, just like load up the zoo. So make a screenshot of the zoo overnight and compare them to see changes or errors. Now here's another one. Can you find out which asset has a problem here? Sorry, it's a trick question. You can't see it. But if I turn on shader complexity, now which asset has a problem? Super easy to see, right? Again, instantly we can see this particular asset over here has a really high shader complexity. We should probably fix this. Great. So the zoo makes it much easier to work with 3D asset. So what makes a good zoo? Well, displaying of assets on a per folder, per use, and per level basis. Lighting settings for each level and time of day so we can check this all look correct with our materials as well. Scale references with textures or characters, like just put a couple of mannequins, a couple of characters next to these assets, you have an idea what the size is. And vignettes. Have little vignettes set up by art directors to showcase like, oh, this is how you put those assets together to be congruent with the art style, make sure all the levels look good. So that's takeaway number 2. Use zoos. Now chapter 3, museum. This is for technology and systems, for shaders and rendering, and for physics and prefabs. Here's a little museum example from Unreal Engine. Again, you can just download this for free as part of Unreal. And instantly, for the class system, we can see like everything and how it's supposed to work. We can like load it up and see like, oh, this is how the class system functions. Great. Little green question mark 2, we click on that, maybe go to more information, go to actual documentation for the API system. Totally fine. Again, instead of starting off with 40 to 50 pages on Confluence, here it is in one go. You can take a look at it. In fact, for the physics system in Unreal called Chaos Destruction, look at how big their museum is. It's a lot of examples. And again, instead of hundreds of pages on Confluence, you load up one level, take a look through it, and you understand how everything works. Same thing goes, Skin Deep also released a mod museum to the public recently. So they want UGC. They want people from outside of their company also building content for the game. Great. How do you teach the public about what to do and what not to do in your games? You don't give them documentation. If your developers aren't reading it, how are your game players going to read all the documentation? They won't. So the mod museum solves that. So in this case, there's one level you load up, the mod museum, and from there you can teleport to every other section of the museum. And every other section then explains how the content is supposed to be used, how it's supposed to work. It's much, much easier to work with. In this case, I click on it, loads up the next level. I'm going to turn on no clip here just to go through it a little bit faster. This is the metric section of the museum. So in this case, you see like, oh, this is what the player width is and player height. Oh, when they're crawling, they look like that. There's more information here, like for example, like, oh, this is what the jump height needs to be, like this is what counter height needs to be, so you can easily grab items. This is what you can do with clambering. Like, all this information is right here. It's much easier to understand than reading through some docs. You also have things like this, like for example, saying like, hey, don't build overhangs because it doesn't function well. Like if you do this, then if you send there, or there, how is the player supposed to know? So don't build levels with overhangs like this. There's too much ambiguity, so watch out for this. And also, don't do clamber above clamber because then also things get weird and the player gets confused. Showing it like this and also being able to press play and instantly try it out, seeing how you get stuck, makes it much easier if you understand the level design and to build things yourself. Also goes for lighting systems, like how does the lighting system work? Watch out for this. Please do that. Please don't do that. Please make sure your work behaves in this way. Much easier to understand. And also for scripting. For example, here's a little scripting thing, and it literally shows you as it goes through the script of like, oh, first it does that, then it does that, and it does it right there in front of you, showcases how things work. It becomes much easier for everyone to understand how systems are supposed to work. And again, also good for smoke testing. So not big documentation, it just shows how it works. So what makes a good museum? It functionally displays how the systems work, has text explaining those systems, and contains links to technical documentation. Again, for APIs, engineering things, you need to have textual documentation. There's no way to avoid that. But for everyone else, have the museum, and then from there, link to the docs. Because as well, if you're trying to look for something like, you know how I said like finding assets by name is difficult? Try to find a systems name. Like on Confluence, like type in the right thing. How are you going to find it? Oh, that thing changed names 2 weeks ago. I got to find it in Slack and ask Alex and Sam. Like, okay, we're back at the beginning. Difficult, right? Do it via the museum, becomes much, much easier. So that's number 3, use museums. So gyms, zoos, and museums, they're not just in-game, they're spatial. That takes us to the surprise chapter 4, spatial documentation. This is for everything that you do. For example, let's say you're building a level in a game in the beginning, and everything's still gray box, you have no idea what things look like. Put some text in the level. Like explain like, oh, this is what the human city is, this is like the farmlands, this is dungeon number 2, dungeon number 1, we don't even have names for them yet. All that kind of stuff. It becomes much, much easier to understand. You can even do this like for quest locations, like, oh, here's a human city, here's the quest 3 start location, so like, please don't move this, right, because things will break if you do. You can also use this for bug reports, design changes, general to-do tasks. Put them in the level. For example, here's C-Notes for Unity, a plugin by Ciro Contenicio. And in it, you can see like, oh, we placed this little marker somewhere, and it says like, oh, the grass is covering the road. So someone else has placed this marker and be like, oh, there's something to fix here. So the next time a level designer is looking at the level, they're going to go, oh, there's an issue here, not looking on Jira, not looking on any kind of Kanban system, just finding it right there in the level. And we can really easily put things in there like text, screenshots, who placed it, when did they place it, link it to whatever Jira system you have so it automatically completes it. If you complete it in here, works so much better. So the devs see what they need in the context they need it in. And Godot does this really well. For example, in this case, I have a Node 3D in Godot, and I can right-click that and show open documentation. And if I click on that, the documentation is right there in the editor, right? It's not on a separate page. It's right there where I'm already looking. And what becomes even more cool is that if there's a specific thing that I want to find, like a particular property, I can literally right-click that property and then say open documentation, and it takes me to the exact spot of the documentation for that particular function. Again, it's spatially, contextually where you are already looking. So what makes good spatial documentation? Well, they're easy to create, mouse, keyboard, controller, even microphone. You know how in like Valve games you have commentary nodes? Imagine an art director playing through a game and just being like, oh, let me add a little thing here, talking to the microphone a little bit, there's an issue here, and then let go again. Maybe it auto-completes the text, maybe the level designer will listen to it, it works so much better. And they have screenshots and ticket system integration, so you can see what's wrong, it automatically links to a ticket so a producer can still look at Jira, because they still love looking at Jira, which is fine. Nobody else wants to. That's okay. Like, as long as it automatically works, makes the things much, much easier. And they contain links to external data where necessary. Like, have things in there, and if there's API documentation or something else that needs to be external, link it. So that's 4. Build spatial and contextual documentation. And we can combine these techniques, like peanut butter and chocolate. These things can combine into great things, like, for example, spatial notes and zoos together. Here's another example from C-Notes by Ciro Contenicio. You have a zoo and with notes on it that says like, oh, please change this material, please move this, just try this out. Or a gym in a zoo. For example, by Apex Legends over here, you have this little testing area, little gym, but also all these assets are displayed, so I don't have to spawn them with some weird console command. I can just pick them up, find them, and instantly use them. You might be wondering, is there a combination gym, zoo, and museum? Like, maybe there's one that comes close. There's an Evening with Infinity Ward by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, released in 2009. Again, little vignette showcases how things look. We can check out these animations. We can see all these assets displayed quickly and easily. We can also see the guns displayed. So like we can have a little zoo here and click on these and find them. And there's even a little button somewhere, a little big red button that says do not press. And if you press it, they all come to life and you need to start shooting them to survive. So it's kind of a combination of all these elements combined. So your documentation slowly goes out of date. Instead of that, build a gym, a zoo, a museum, and make sure to work spatially. Thank you very much. I'd also like to give a quick thanks to these people for all their lovely work and for allowing me to use some of their work in this presentation. Thanks so much. Also for feedback. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, you can connect with me here on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions about gyms, zoos, and museum, free to connect, send me a message. Always happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Robin-Yann, for this beautiful talk. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 Q&A questions, if any are from the audience. Otherwise, we are technically at time of the slot. If anyone of you has any questions? Yes.
This is amazing. Thank you. When does it break down? Is there a way that using gyms and zoos kind of becomes too much? What does the far side of this look like? So
like you're saying, like when does this become an issue, like a problem for the development team to work with? I think it can, like as with anything can become a problem. In this particular case, when it becomes a problem, it's mostly when there's not a designated person that keeps it up to date. For example, what I've seen at companies is that if there is a zoo, right, that is like with all the assets set up and something does change, you need to make sure that there's an art director or someone who is designed of like, hey, this person is their responsibility to make sure this asset zoo is up to date. So if it isn't updated, if something's missing, we know like, oh, this person needs to have updated, this person needs to look at it and make sure that it always functions. If that person leaves or just doesn't update or it's forgotten, then it also goes out of date, as with any documentation, right? Like it does need that continual updating. So like this is, to be very clear, this is not free to do. It takes time and effort. But it definitely has a lot more ROI than writing text that no one's going to read. But it's still effort. Does that answer your question? Okay. Great. Any other questions? Oh, yes?
Yeah, we have... Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. It was great. Have you seen a company move to that kind of workflow, and how long did it take?
Yes, I have. It depends on which parts do you like. Some companies only use zoos. I would like them to also use other ones, but they only use zoos. But usually what I've seen, it takes about 2-3 months or so for them to sort of get used to it, right? Like this case of like the art director needs to get used to like, how do I set these things up correctly? What is the right grouping that works for our game, for our project, for our company culture? Make sure that they can easily keep it up to date, make sure people start knowing about it. That takes time. But once that's all set up, it becomes much, much easier for everyone to keep doing it. So usually about 2-3 months I've seen to sort of get that initial ball rolling. Yes.
Yeah, we have time for one more question. Yeah, you had from the
I think
previous
that
round,
person
and
was
after
first,
does
yes.
read the last question.
Thank you. Does this make sense for 2D games as well?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Like you still need to have that thing where like you have everything displayed easily. Like generally, if you're working with 2D games, you have some kind of sprite atlas anyway, so that can be an easy way of doing it. But also like, especially in the case of like the gyms and museums part, if there are particular cases of like, hey, do I get stuck on this one pixel? Like, let's put up a couple of sections in like a gym somewhere of like, hey, can I get past this? Can I easily walk through here? All those kinds of like character controller systems are still really good to build gyms for. And if you have any particular systems like, for example, a combat, a big thing that I've seen is like, I haven't shown this in the talk because there's only so much time I have for the talk, but for example, an enemy zoo. So in this case, you grab all the enemies in the game, you literally kind of put them in a zoo where it's like, here's one section, here's another section, in a little environment or area that is fit for them. So you can be like, oh, if I want to try a particular combat thing, if I want to try like how does a particular like store work or NPC work, load up that one zoo, walk to it, fight that enemy, talk with that enemy, work with that enemy. Like there's plenty of games that do that kind of stuff, which can't show, but they do this. Like there's a bunch of games that do this to make sure that like if you have a bunch of NPCs, you can easily still work with them. So whether 2D or 3D, that's still very helpful for those people to do. Okay, I think we're out of time, but if you have any other questions, I will be outside. Feel free to talk to me anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.